Welcome in to the latest episode of the Need for Seeds College Basketball Podcast presented by the pregame.com podcast network. I'm your host, real_G Warner. I'm joined by at Big East Ben. We are here talking some college basketball for Saturday, January 4th. Good news, we will be going to 2 shows per week starting right after the end of the college football season. But stay tuned for the Need for Screens College Football Podcast with yours truly and at Big East Ben on this same network. Big East Ben went 2-0 in our best bets on this last college basketball episode. I heard you had a front row seat to Elon on Flow Sports.
I mean, they did exactly what I said was happen, according to the ESPN box score. Marshall shot a million threes, missed them all. Uh,
3
what
2
was my other point?
3-2
I don't
zone.
remember. That's ancient history. I've been fucking ice cold since. Like I'm losing my mind. I went on tilt last night. I have so much action on these games tonight, and I'm super nervous. And yeah, I lost my mind last night.
Well, it sounds like we're gonna have quite the podcast tonight. We're gonna go through 5 of the biggest games on our list, all big ones and pretty close spreads as well. I'm pulling up as we speak the current lines as we are recording this Friday evening, just in time for a bunch of games to already be out there. Some have tipped off already, others, of course, about to, but we have a ton of movement from openers as well. First game on the list is a very early one if you are in any time zone that exists on the face of this earth. And that is the Florida Gators visiting the Kentucky Wildcats in what used to be a very, very one-sided rivalry and then became one-sided the other way. Now we're starting anew with Mark Pope in charge. And I guess Todd Golden's sticking around because his team's good, but I can't imagine. I feel like it feels like one of those end of season. We've decided to terminate him with cause.
Really?
You don't think so?
What happened to that story? It
Uh,
just died.
they started to win.
So is this going to be like if they make the Final Four, it'll be like the Cleveland Indians when they make the World Series and people will start asking questions again? Because I
Uh,
think the best thing for Todd Golden is a round of 32 exit, and then people keep forgetting about it.
well, it reminds me of the Brandon Miller saga from Alabama a few years ago when he was literally delivered a gun to, but was not considered an accomplice in a murder. And then things started to really come up and heat up again in March. I feel that was an earlier season, I think early conference play, if I'm remembering correctly, thing. So who knows? But I guess it probably doesn't make sense to talk about the legal situation. And I feel like it's one of those we haven't heard about it because the university's not willing to comment on it further. And I think it's going to be one of those things that come up, kind of how we saw um, what's this Shannon last year playing in the NCAA tournament. That kind of got quiet too after he got suspended from the team, put back on the team. I feel like it's one of those scenarios again, but coach is a little bit different than a 1 year rental player in the world of the transfer portal. But Kentucky 3-point favorites right now at home to Florida. Total is 167 and a half. What do you feel on this one?
Yeah, that's a high total. I'm going to back Kentucky here. I think they're going to have a lot of juice after their worst performance of the year against Ohio State, Florida, while undefeated. Three top 100 Ken Palm opponents, 227th in schedule. Like, yes, Elijah Martin's great. Yes, Walter Clayton's great. But back in Kentucky at Rupp, under a possession, you got to do that.
I feel the same. It seems a little bit like, I mean, Ken Palm's got Florida 1 point favorite away from home. It looks like on Torvik we have Florida about a one, almost 2 point underdog at Kentucky. I feel like the difference there makes a little bit of sense. Though I guess that usually is because until January 28th, Ken Palm, unless he's changed his whole style, they take in consideration from last season in his numbers. Maybe that explains the discrepancies, or clearly Torvik is valuing certain metrics more than Ken Palm is to arrive here. Does feel like the price is about as high as we'll see in Kentucky. I mean, you never know with the amount of popularity that Kentucky has in the sport, amount of fans, and of course, people that like to bet them. And maybe it's one of those home favorites thing, and favorites certainly will get bet more than underdogs. I don't know that I've been in love with this Florida team all season. Feels like they're getting a ton of respect here, only as a 3-point underdog, though Kentucky, as you mentioned, have a good spot to bounce back. We'll move next to Nebraska. They are in a traditional Big Ten rivalry here with the incoming UCLA Bruins. Currently, Nebraska right now, I pick them with all the juice, though. So you could argue -1 probably in other places across the street. Total is 133 and a half in this one, or 134 more likely, because it's also very juiced the over. UCLA with incredible back-to-back situate. I think they should have beaten both North Carolina and Gonzaga. You could argue they could have lost both of them. Amazing, but Mick Cronin is now getting Coach of the Year conversation as well. It's bizarre, but what's your take on this one?
How about that end of game shot by Ryan Nemhard in the UCLA game?
Especially,
Hey, I don't need the 4 seconds. I'll just chuck it 65 feet.
I think Nemhard seems to have a lot of lovers and a lot of haters out there. I know before the game, Casey Jacobson was saying, yeah, when you make Ryan Nemhard shoot a lot of shots, that's when Gonzaga loses. So they should just let him shoot the whole time. Then he makes a potential game-tying layup and
That
one.
was a great play.
I mean, it's I don't know if you have any thoughts on UCLA specifically in this one. To me, it seemed like they should have won the UNC game and got everything they could ever want from Tyler Bilodeau, and then he basically was horrible against Gonzaga, against a much, I don't know, I guess they have a much bigger front court. Gonzaga does, one of the biggest in the nation. But then they made a ton of threes and still somehow choked another lead to Gonzaga and were trailing most of the second half. So I don't know where to go with this UCLA team. Now 1-point underdogs as we are again recording Friday night and their lines moving as we're talking about these games. We'll use UCLA since it's a more reasonable juice. A 1-point underdog at Nebraska, total 134.
Yeah, that was. I mean, Mac was awful in that Gonzaga game, just taking it to the tin and just forcing it against the Gonzaga bigs. Stefanovic really bailed him out with his 3-point shooting. He could not miss in that one. I'm very high on this Nebraska team. I watched every single second of the Diamond Head Classic, which they won. I really like Bryce Williams. I love Jawan Gary. He's an absolute dog. He reminds me a lot of Daryl Morsell from Marquette a few years ago. I'm sure everyone remembers that him.
I remember him from
Um,
Maryland. What?
he transferred. He was Shaka's only transfer.
Yeah.
And the what was that center's name?
Ben Gold.
No, I
Uh,
liked him.
a
Um,
center transfer to Marquette, you're saying?
yeah, give me 1 sec. This is gonna bug me.
Okay. Well, I'll talk about this one a little bit. You don't really go into the pinnacle bank. You don't go into the vault and get wins very often. UCLA certainly, I don't know if they've played at Nebraska and Lincoln in their entire program's history. Coming off, I mean, I guess they played Gonzaga in Intuit Center, the new Clippers arena, not too far from their campus in LA, though LA trips can certainly get a little bit long, as Big East Ben and his Uber driver, I mean, his valet just found out recently, depending if you run into the car in front of you or not. Go ahead.
Kirk Huath, transfer from Oklahoma.
Right,
He
right.
was good. They could use a guy like that. Although, I mean, Ben Gold's been tearing it up lately. They're gonna murder Creighton tonight, by the way. If you haven't taken Marquette, I think it's at 9.5 now. Please do. I put 5 units on it as part of my enraged tilt.
Oh,
Um,
okay. I
yeah,
like it.
it's my beehole is very clenched right now. But I love Nebraska. They're strong. They're big. They can match up with UCLA. Like you said, they are very hard to beat at home. Give me the Huskers, especially with the great spot too with UCLA coming off that win versus Gonzaga.
Yeah, I feel like I like UCLA, I really do. But you kind of pointed out like the skill, I feel like in the guards is not really there. I don't necessarily know if I want much to do with. I mean, I've been back at UCLA a lot this year. I feel like should have covered every game so far. Besides, I guess the trip to Oregon, which they miraculously won with a shot off the off the backboard at the buzzer, which and I think I was losing my Oregon spread bet that night anyway, -3.5. But I think there's a lot of good defense being played by UCLA, of course. But I don't know necessarily they have the offense going away from home. That's going to be a really tough spot. And I would imagine that a Nebraska crowd, which has been wishing for a good football team for a long time and hasn't seemed to get one, might be one of those scenarios where there might be a lot of people in those seats at the Pinnacle Bank Arena for the incoming UCLA. Moving next to Arizona visiting Cincinnati. All these games seem to be before like 3 p.m. so far. We had Kentucky starting before noon Eastern time even, which is wild. But I guess we're moving earlier and earlier, I guess, until the NFL season is done. And then you'll see more college basketball and honestly more of the Need for Speed's college basketball podcast. We got Cincinnati, though, 3-point favorites right now to Arizona, another long-standing conference rivalry. Total is 147.5 in this Big 12 tilt.
It's insane that Arizona is still 19th in KenPom with 5 losses. They're like this year's Alabama. Um, they're nowhere near as good as last year's Alabama. Caleb Love is going to shoot you out of games. I don't trust Caleb Love on the road. They lost Krivas for the season, 7-footer. Hey, it must be nice that you can lose your 7-footer from Eastern Europe and just shove in another 7-footer from Eastern Europe. Way to go, Tommy Lloyd. Keep running that professional ball club. College sports is dead. Um,
It is.
Cincinnati plays really well at home or in this city of Cincinnati. Wins over Xavier. Just getting their doors blown. Were you involved in the Xavier Georgetown game at all tonight?
I was not, but I was involved in the Dayton loss to Cincinnati in Cincinnati for a second straight year. I thought I might be able to sneak away with Dayton back-to-back years, but they could not cover late.
I'm gonna back the Bearcats. I like Lukosius. I like James. Skillings is fully healthy. Just athletic. Fifth third is a really tough place to play when the team's good, and this is the best team they've had in years. Big game. Give me the Bearcats. Arizona still searching for that quad one win.
Yeah, I feel like Cincinnati's been getting a lot more respect than they've kind of deserved so far, but doesn't seem to be changing. So I feel like we're just going to have to interpret Cincinnati to be a really good basketball team. Though in this case, I kind of felt like they'd be bigger favorites. Arizona, of course, always gets a ton of respect in on the college basketball floor. But I don't, I mean, I'm kind of surprised. I thought we might see something different here, but Cincinnati only 3-point favorites. That's usually a pretty big buy number for me. Home teams that I think are better, and I think Arizona, as you mentioned, is one of those teams that is getting by a lot on name value. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how many 3-point shots Caleb Love will attempt. If he has one of those days where he's sticking his tongue out and drooling on the court, maybe I will, I guess, pay for it for saying that. But those days are few and far between, seem to only happen in the NCAA tournament on the longest run of Hubert Davis's basketball life as head coach, which we'll see how much longer that extends. But I think I'm with you, Cincinnati at home, and I think we will see Arizona taking a lot of lumps in Big 12 play this year. Though Cincinnati's not been there long, I think they've had a little bit more time to get used to what it's going to be like in that conference. Arizona will figure that out sooner rather than later. Move next to Boise State. They are in a dogfight with San Diego State. Just see a line moving from 3 to 3.5 as we speak. So we'll use Boise State 3.5-point favorites at home. Totals 137.5 to the visiting Aztecs.
San Diego State, that was a tough one against Utah State. Utah State still remains incredible this season. They had a lead there, 5 points or like 8 points down the stretch, and they totally choked it away. Boise State's been pretty so-so this year. Best win against St. Mary's in overtime. They also beat Clemson at home.
Yep.
But has, some head scratchers, BC on a neutral, like maybe the worst Power 5 team in Division 1, obviously Division 1 since I said worst Power 5 team. Um, uh, this one's tough. This is a tough game. I don't know why I picked it. I didn't ask Mountain West Ben on his opinion of this. I think it's going to go under. It's going to be a
Just
hard-fought game.
Just use your spoon on the railing and hit it in between, and he'll wake up.
Yeah,
Your chain rattling.
I'll dump some water down there. Um, I'm going to go under. Boise State does not shoot threes. They defend the three ball pretty well. San Diego State is kind of happy to rely on twos. They don't shoot them too efficiently. I think this will be a ugly game in the low 60s. Give me the under.
Yeah, I think I'm interested in Boise here. I feel you on your under lean. I think I don't love that we've moved from 3 to 3.5. So I think if you're looking to play this one, you might want to wait and see if we get this to fall back down to 3 based on San Diego State's dominance in the conference and really just being lined as the best team in the Mountain West for a long, long time. I feel like the run to the championship game was awesome for San Diego State, though they got their doors blown off by Connecticut a couple seasons ago. But things have changed so much, and the kind of dynasty that Steve Fisher built in Viejas and in San Diego is not really the same anymore with the transfer portal. And I think that's made it so a dominant kind of lower major team is no longer as dominant. We'll see, of course, San Diego State always gets a ton of respect away from home in this conference, but I think they will find it a little bit harder this year as the Mountain West continues to look like a home court league. Although Colorado State certainly didn't work for us, or at least for me last weekend against New Mexico, but that might have been more Colorado State's issue rather than the home court in general in the conference. So I'll lay the 3.5. Another home team, surprise, surprise. Last on our list, we have Baylor visiting Iowa State in a Big 12 battle, bigger spread than we've talked about so far. Baylor 8.5 point underdogs on their trip to Hilton Coliseum, totals 151.5 points.
So your boy recently saw the Cyclones in action.
Tell
Uh,
give us your talk on and tell us how our Italian brethren Marmcilovic did.
he
Milan
did
Markovic.
okay. He made his open jumpers. Yeah, so Iowa State traveled to Boulder, which is a 30-minute drive for me. Um,
Were you high in the
Colorado,
Rockies?
what's up?
Were you high in the Rockies?
I was high in the Rockies. I'm always high in the Rockies. 5,400 feet or 5,250, as they say. Here, Boulder's a little higher, 5,400.
Okay.
At
5280.
Colorado,
I thought it was 5280. That's what they have in the Broncos helmets.
5,280 in Denver, but Boulder's 5,400.
Got it.
Yeah.
Much higher.
Um,
Much higher in the Rockies. That makes sense. Rest in peace, Bill, with two L's.
I had Colorado plus 9.5, 1 point game, under 5 minutes left. Start dribbling off their foot. Iowa State starts running out. Herb Jones goes 4 for 4 from the line. Iowa State wins by 10.
Mm,
And
mm.
that kicked off this massive cold streak I'm on that makes me want to stop doing this podcast and be a live up in the mountains as a recluse.
Well, the sad part is the Need for Seeds College Basketball Podcast will always find you. And we're about to do
Here we
two.
go twice a week.
We're about to go 2 shows a week. So it's good you got the cold streak out now, especially over the days when no one has been really playing over the holiday break. I mean, as soon as we're back into conference play, that's when the layups come out. That's when they make Arizona a 3 point underdog on the road in a really tough to play place to play, 2 time zones away from where they're located. And that's when at Big East Bend comes out. And eventually he'll find an NCAA tournament team that he'll ride all the way to an 11-0.
Okay, stop saying that. I used them for 3 games,
That's what happened.
3 out of 11.
That's how it went. It was
I
it
know.
was
I didn't ride one team the entire time. You keep
you ra-
saying that.
you rode them at the end, bro. That's how it worked out, and it worked out very well.
Yeah, I know. I know when to ride.
That's so let's ride
Keyshawn Gilbert, second best finisher in college basketball.
behind
Who do you think?
Cam Jones.
Cam Jones. Cam Jones, better finisher than Kyrie Irving, better shooter than Steph Curry.
Got it. Okay. Yes, and that's why he's gonna win the Wooden Award.
80 to 1, 81 start of the year.
Hell
I
yeah.
think I told everyone. My two picks, Janai Broom and Cam Jones, are neck and neck.
Same.
Although, did you see Fran Fraschilla?
I'm just used to Fran loving on the officials, which I never agree with.
He tweets the other day. Uh, Unanimous All-Americans so far this season, Johnny Broom and Cooper Flagg. Parentheses, maybe Cam Jones. But I'm also going to put Eric Dixon in the conversation. And he got absolutely roasted by Marquette fans. Like, you're going to put Eric Dixon over Cam Jones? How
Uh,
about that Butler game?
that was a special one. I'll respond to the. I mean, Dixon, he can shoot threes now, so he's not only an undersized big guy that is always so beautiful with the post moves inside. But if he's open for three, that's a big deal, and that's why Villanova is gonna, I don't know, barely make the NCAA tournament. It was really funny. I saw, I was watching the game with Temple recently, as I hadn't watched it live way back when. Surprise, surprise to anyone that listens to this podcast, and of course, a surprise, surprise to at Big East Ben. But Kyle Neptune that day decided to wear. I think he just forgot his tie because he wore the whole suit. I think it was a coaches versus cancer day, so they had sneakers on, but had the whole button up and just didn't decide he didn't want to do a tie, or maybe he just doesn't know how to tie a tie because that's why he always wears the uh, the turtlenecks. I'm not sure, but honestly, whoever's getting that guy wins over and over and over again. Maybe he deserves a thought for an All-American team, but it's a little different, I think, where Villanova's playing. Until we see Villanova Marquette, though, I guess we'll have to wait for Fran to change his mind.
Yeah, and we'll see that soon. It will be demolition on both in Pennsylvania and the state of Wisconsin.
At
Looking
the
forward to it.
I hope is it at the 76ers
The
spot,
Finn?
or is that the Finn Pavilion?
Good question. Let's look that up.
I'll go on this one. So Baylor 8.5 point underdogs, total 151.5 on the road in Ames, Iowa. So that I mean, losing by a half point is brutal. We did see plenty of those, and get ready to those, especially in conference play when the lines are pretty tight. Um, Baylor's defense has it improved? I'm not so sure.
333rd in 3-point percentage defense.
The nice part is Iowa State has a really good second best finisher in college basketball. Is going to try to go to the rack.
Yeah, but they got our Italian darling, Mr. Montilovich,
Yes.
who, oh my God, dude. Tad Boyle,
Mm. I mean, we got time. Go ahead. Give us what you
no
got.
idea how to guard. Like, he ran some of the worst defenses on baseline out of bounds plays. Iowa State probably got a dozen points just on baseline out of bounds plays. That was also freaking infuriating. One of them was the corner guy just fell asleep, Monchivilich, no one within him for 8 feet and buries a three. Um, that also killed me.
I think it's the
What do you have
Cal
what do you have her spread on this game? What's the over under?
8.5 is the spread, 151.5 for the game.
I'm going to take Baylor. Iowa State's not that good. They're not that tough. I know they have Hilton Magic. I'm not afraid of it. They don't shoot threes. Baylor can take care of the ball. Baylor needs this one more. Give me the Bears, keeping this one close. Is Edgecombe playing?
Good luck figuring that out.
Oh my God, it's even worse, dude. Frickin' North Carolina Louisville game. Everyone's saying Seth Trimble's playing. Nope. Nope. Not playing.
Could have used them. That was a pretty close game. I was at the Aria watching that one right as we watched Butler absolutely choke. I feel like Thad Matta, everyone, there's a reason why he couldn't make it happen at Ohio State. And there's a reason why he was out of the game for a while and then showed up at Butler, won some games last year. That collapse was horrible. I think that I was checking the box score to make sure I wasn't just like asleep at the whole time and missing him calling a timeout. But I feel like ESPN in their game log or whatever, they say when it's going to a TV timeout who's got the ball. Because I don't think Thad Matta ever called a timeout in a
He
16
didn't.
run. And finally he did after
Down
like
seven.
it's I mean
After
that
they turned the ball over on 3 straight possessions, they had more turnovers in 90 seconds than they did in the entire rest of the game.
what you would think is that there might be some guidance from a head coach who's been to a national title game, and instead of just having Brooks to go down the floor or alternating with Telford, just not even making a pass, just getting it over the half court line and launching a three when all the momentum's on the other team. Yes, you're at home and you can shoot better there. That was pretty disgusting. Had that as my best bet on pregame, and that was not fun. But I think we will hopefully Thad Matta will learn from that in his 65th year on this earth or whatever year it is. I'm gonna go just to finish this one off. I'm gonna go with Iowa State 8.5 point favorites. I think they are. You mentioned it. They're not really the 3-point shooting team that's going to really take advantage of Baylor, but I think Baylor's 3-point defense is just going to be open for business whenever they're on defense, and I think Iowa State will take advantage of it. It's hard to go to Hilton, and I just feel like bad defenses away from home. It's even hard to hang in. You to your point though, like if they're close late, this probably will cover the spread, barring some unlucky free throw stuff, which of course we can see. Teams usually stop fouling at 9 in my experience. I just don't feel as strongly about an over and under here, and I think Iowa State has a good chance to blow Baylor out. But we'll see if Scott Drew can fix that defense in just a couple days.
Quick,
Go
did
ahead.
you watch Oregon, Illinois yet?
I have not. No, what's
Did you
up?
have action on it?
I did not.
Okay. Do you want to kind of talk
Go ahead.
about it?
Go ahead. Sure. Yeah.
I don't know what's going on in the Big Ten. Illinois put up 109 points against Oregon.
3-point shooters. Yeah,
Wisconsin's playing Iowa now. Do you have action on that game?
I do not.
Any guesses on any points Wisconsin has right now?
109.
111 with a minute left.
Well,
What is going on? Plus,
so one of these is more surprising than the other to me.
uh, yeah, Illinois go against Oregon on the road. Yeah.
On the road, and I mean, we do know that Illinois shoots a ton of threes, which I don't know how long that's going to last. But going against Dana Altman's, I mean, I guess Altman is known, I think, for his defense, the zone defense being the best kind of asset to him. Usually a turnover forcing zone defense. I could see that getting exploited, but less likely at home. And I don't like at this point, like, did I just bet Illinois at home to Tennessee and they had just one of their worst shooting days possible? Is Tennessee's defense that good? Is it a combination of the two? Because I mean, I would expect, I mean, I'm still hurting over that last second loss by half of a point on a layup that after they missed one out of two free throws at the end, they could have put them ahead by one.
That
And
was such a ref show, dude, that game. They should never have been on the foul line.
Illinois should not have been, you're saying.
Correct.
Yeah, I think I mean Illinois couldn't make a shot that day, and that'll happen, of course. It's especially damning when you're backing a heavy 3-point shooting team. Um, and I don't know really what to say other than I guess those things will happen from time to time. But if they go and shoot lights out, apparently they can get into triple digits in a really tough place to play, far away from home. Fortunately for me, I try to stick to like a 3-point favorite rule and Oregon to never got as low as I was looking for. So I probably would have played it if they were cheaper, but I guess lucky I didn't.
I'm just so sick of these mercenaries, dude. Like, did you see the news about Green Bay today?
Oh no, what's Dougie G doing? Is he?
Doug Gottlieb is getting this pro from Israel, 23 years old, plays in the top league at Israel, midseason, immediately eligible. Like, it's a joke. It's a freaking joke.
Do you think Doug took his ACT or his SAT?
I don't think the emission standards at Green Bay, uh, great city, are
Does
that
anyone
different.
have admission standards anymore? Like I thought it used to be part of the reason why Texas really
Remember, I think the last time anything was, wasn't it Caleb Love didn't have high enough grades to go to Texas? That was like the last one.
It might have been. I feel like that was always a thing where Texas basketball just couldn't get good, not because it's the third most important sport on campus, but because the admission standards were too high, which is just such a joke. I mean, maybe that changes, but I'm also surprised that we didn't get Texas A&M on this battleground for Saturday night because that'll be an interesting one coming up in just a few hours or about 24 of them.
Well, we
Um,
didn't record early enough. I was busy.
no, that's tomorrow. Unless I just made it
Oh,
up.
wow. I missed that game. For some reason, that's way down on Ken Palm's thrill score list.
You know,
All right,
Ken,
let's talk about it. We got time, right? We've been kind of
yeah,
cruising through it.
sure, go ahead.
Texas A&M is going to murder Texas at home. Like Texas A&M is the most physical team in the country. They're brawlers. Who's your freshman twig? Trey Johnson. Yeah, he's gonna get locked up, dude. Texas A&M is gonna roll in this one.
Texas A&M 5-point favorites, total 140. I'm not sure the last time I saw Texas this big of an underdog anywhere besides, I guess, uh, Kansas, probably Houston last year, maybe Baylor. I feel like not really. Were they ever? I mean, it's been a while. Texas is usually lined much lower, so I'm kind of, or I was hoping to get Texas A&M a little bit cheaper. You pointed to it, A&M offensive rebounding. It doesn't seem like it's going to be possible forever, but it is. Partly because they miss so many shots, but they are just really, really.
And they missed badly.
They do miss badly. They are the perfect long rebound team, it seems. But from a Texas perspective, I just haven't been impressed. Rodney Terry's never really won anything. Got Fresno State to an NCAA tournament because he won a conference tournament in the Mountain West, and that was basically it. Did nothing at UTEP. Had a good run with Chris Beard's players and Chris Beard's system after he drilled them for most of the year and just kind of rode it on autopilot for the rest of the season. And unfortunately, we got stuck and had to give him the job. And now he just wears Mugatu outfits on the sideline, it feels to me. But at this point, I mean, it'd be a huge step for Texas, but I feel like we're going to see the college game day experience from the football season way back when. A&M, I think, will perform a little bit better, much better team, much more even talent discrepancy versus the football gridiron. But
I'm curious to hear about your experience in Vegas watching that game.
Uh, so I was out pretty late on the New Year's Eve, and I was trying my best to go take a nap when Texas took a monstrous lead. So I actually left the I left the New York to go back to the MGM and kept trying to go to sleep and could not because Texas was out basically about as they were about to separate. It was when I was about to go to sleep, and then um wasn't a huge fan of the scatterboo dad shots in the crowd every 4 seconds. It felt like wasn't a fan of him. Also have the camera in his face, like telling us that what's going to happen the rest of the game. Quickly found not much of an interest in pitchforks or Arizona State besides their co-eds.
What are you
Yes,
doing?
shocker.
This,
Um,
this.
yes, ring finger down, I believe. Two in the pink, one in the Chick-fil-A Bowl. But I think that was not super fun. Then getting out after a little bit of very little rest. Still no rest. You can see it in my eyes probably. But Oregon didn't do much, I must say. And then they canceled the nightcap. So from what was a huge college football day turned into just really panicking about my alma mater. And now they play what looks like the hottest team on the college football gridiron in a very close area to me in the Cotton Bowl, which now I got to figure out how much money am I going to spend on tickets this weekend or next weekend. So, it's one of those things I feel like my aunt actually texted me and said, we recorded the Texas Arizona game and LOL. Of course, that's what aunts do. They didn't even know what school they're playing, but I welcomed her to the life of being a Texas fan and asked her if she still wanted to be one because they're never fun. It's always stressful. And I just wonder, is the Cotton Bowl going to be the first time Texas actually plays a full 60 minutes of good football? I'm going to guess no after 16 games this year or over
They
many.
played a great minute and a half of football in that Arizona State game.
I mean,
And that was a very good 4th and 15 play.
yeah, that to go literally back-to-back touchdowns after peeing down our legs for the previous 45 minutes was quite wild. But yeah, pretty big underdogs to Ohio State. So I'm not, but we'll get to that. That's a nice little preview for the Need for Screens College Football Podcast presented by the Pregame.com Podcast Network. It's
This
time.
is this is this is a good tweet
Right.
that I retweeted. This guy BD at You Get No CLV can't help but think there's some drunk degenerate hammering Notre Dame -1.5 plus 200, thinking it's the college football semifinal line and that he caught FanDuel lacking. It's Penn State at Notre Dame. Notre Dame -1.5 plus 200. Division One ice hockey.
Yikes. Well, yes. As we usually say, before you hit submit, make sure you do read the confirmation screen and make sure you're betting and clicking on the correct things out there. Before we get to our best bets, make sure you throw in this promo code HOOPS30, HOOPS30, good for $30 off for any best bet package, including games of the year. You even get to use them to get additional discounts on special holiday weekender all access and get every pick in every sport from your favorite pro through Monday. Good for 7 days from the podcast release. Just throw that promo code in there. HOOPS hoops 30 for all college basketball listeners from this episode. Big East Ben, where would you like to go for your best bet on this January 4th Saturday edition?
We are going to Charlottesville, Virginia. Uh, Virginia hosts Louisville is at -2 on your end.
I will tell you in one moment. They are a Virginia 3.5 point underdogs at home to Louisville.
Oh, underdogs. Okay, let's go. I'm back in the Who's here. Louisville just came off the greatest win in the Pat Kelsey era against North Carolina at home. They didn't play well at all. They bricked a million foul shots. They brick a million threes. They still shoot a million threes despite not being good at shooting threes. All they could do was Checky Hupburn would drive by the poorest North Carolina guard defense, perimeter defense, and drop it off to the center. They're not going to be able to do that against the pack line. Virginia's been playing good ball. That was a good comeback against NC State, a game that they definitely would have lost in the Tony Bennett era, but they have a little more offensive firepower with Mr. Sanchez at the helm. Give me Virginia in this one.
Go grab Virginia 3.5 point underdogs at home to Louisville. I like that too. For my best bet, as I continue to try to burn these nets, as we've been hot on this side of the Need for Seeds College Basketball podcast. I'll go with Rhode Island. Pick them at home to George Mason. Yes, George Mason
Like
has
that
got a
too.
ton of respect all season. I don't really see it. I'll pay to see it at the. You don't go into the Keeney gym and go out of there with a win. That's the only Patriots that win in Rhode Island. Actually, that's probably not something I should mention. But we'll go with Rhode Island to pick them alongside the Virginia Cavaliers, 3.5 point underdogs. And those are our best bets for the Need for Seeds College Basketball podcast presented by the pregame.com podcast network. We will see you for 2 episodes as soon as the college football season wraps up. Unless you can convince our bosses otherwise, feel free to tweet at us that you want more of the Need for Seeds College Basketball podcast immediately, and I will forward it all on and take some screenshots, all that sort of stuff as we move on the rest of the season. Use that promo code HOOPS30, go save some money, and we'll see you next week on the Need for Seeds College Basketball podcast.
Woody Newton, dirty player. You're going to get locked up by David Green on Saturday.
Hell yeah. Sebastian Thomas.